Well, welcome everybody. Welcome to Bridges to Community. My name is Sarah Turca, Area Community Liaison for Bridges by Epic.
And I'm Erica Lab, Director of Team Member Engagement and Culture here at Epic Senior Living. We are thrilled to have a special guest here with us today for our podcast, Tiffany Kudravetz. She's an attorney specializing in estate planning, guardianship and conservatorship, and probate. In addition to being a friendly and knowledgeable counselor for clients, Tiffany enjoys working in the community to promote awareness of appropriate and well-considered estate planning. Tiffany has lectured and written extensively at the national and local level on topics including child protection, grant management, volunteerism, and has served as a certified public interest advocate. Tiffany is admitted to the bars of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts and the Commonwealth of Virginia. She's an LGBTQ plus ally, and we are so excited to have you here today to share your expertise with us. So welcome, Tiffany.
Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you so much for being here. Truly excited to have you be here to share your knowledge and expertise with our audience. We've actually had the pleasure of recently partnering with you with an in-person caregiver panel, and I really felt that your information could really help our community at large. So I'm thrilled to have you to speak a little bit more. And before we dive into things, could you just first start out by telling us a bit about your business and what makes Generations Law so unique?
Sure, I'd be happy to. Thanks again for having me today. Generations Law Group is a law firm that specializes in estate planning and elder law. So we have a very specialized focus. We have 6 attorneys currently. We just added 2 last fall, so we're a growing group of people. We have offices right now in Acton and Sudbury, and soon to be opening one in Andover, so we can meet needs with a pretty wide radius.
Awesome.
And what's really nice about us is that we all can do estate planning, but each of us has a specialty. So for example, as I oversee conservatorships, guardianships, and probate, we also have an attorney who is a guest on your podcast who handles mass health and long-term care planning. We have a new tax attorney who does trust administration as well. And so we can cover pretty much anything that someone needs, from the pre-planning documents all the way through navigating a crisis. And that's something really unique about our firm, because a lot of people will do certain parts of that, but we actually will do everything from beginning to end.
Soup to nuts. That's awesome. Mm-hmm. That's great.
And I do think, again, as you said, that whole generations, you're helping families that have various dynamics, various ages, and I love that you can really narrow in and hone in and focus on these specialties. It really makes a difference for these families. What is something the average person might be surprised to learn about when they're in the estate planning process with you?
A lot of people come to us and they just think, I need an estate plan, and all they're thinking about is either a will or a trust. Mm-hmm. And they think, that's it, I'll be set, that's perfect. But there are so many other documents that you need in addition to a will and possibly a trust. And so when clients come to us, we want them to understand the entire process. So there are some documents that you need while you're living that are very important, like a power of attorney and a healthcare proxy. There are some trusts that come into play while you're living and are very important for asset protection or special needs. And then there's a will. And lots of people just don't understand that there's so much more to estate planning than thinking about what happens to my stuff after I die. And also that your legacy is not just money. Your legacy are the traditions you pass down, some of your assets. You want to have a really thoughtful approach to all of that. So estate planning, we want people to think of not just as this single one document that will come into play later, but this thoughtful approach that will take care of you now through a crisis situation and then ensure your wishes are followed once you've passed away.
So it's like, how do you want to live? Not just how do you want, what do you want to happen after you die?
Exactly.
Yeah, I love that. You mentioned like healthcare proxy, power of attorney, things like that. Could you, for our listeners, like share what are some essentials like people really should, adults should have in place? Like if you're going to pick a couple things that people should have right away, what would you suggest, like a starting point?
Right off the bat, everyone, once they turn 18 years old, should have a durable power of attorney and a healthcare proxy. And I picked those two because those are documents that impact you while you're living. And a lot of people say, oh, I don't need one. It's okay. The doctors will talk to me, or I have joint assets. But if you think of someone, whether they're 18 or 40 or 80 years old, there are all kinds of things that you do day to day that you really take for granted. So it could be anything from talking to the phone company about your cell phone bill or the cable company. It could be paying rent, getting a lease. It could be signing paperwork to go to a facility like Bridges. So there are a lot of things where if you don't have those documents in place, you're somewhat stuck. And people can't just sign your name. People can't just make your healthcare decisions. So I encourage people to think of those. And it comes up a lot actually with kids who are going away to college. So we have, even though a lot of what we do, people think of as elder law, a lot of it is really important for people who, of all ages. So a lot of our clients will have kids going to college, and we have a young professionals package that has a couple of these vital documents. And we say, okay, what happens if there's a health crisis and you're away at college? No one's going to talk to your parents or your guardian. So you need to get something in place now.
Right, so they know who to call.
Exactly.
Well, they know who to call, and I also think it lends into what I would like you to share with the audience is preventing a crisis from being even more of a crisis. You know, there would be nothing worse than, God forbid, your child getting into a terrible accident, and now you have to go through a court process to even have a say into your child's care and needs. I mean, could you just lend a little more information on that?
Sure. And I didn't describe the documents that I was talking about a second ago, so I'll just give a quick overview of those.
Sure.
I gave some examples.
Thank you.
But the durable power of attorney is a document that covers all legal and financial decision making, and I gave examples of that, the full spectrum of anything where you might sign your name, write a check, pay a bill. On the other side is the healthcare proxy, and that's all mental and physical health. And the healthcare proxy is a document that more or less sits in waiting until there is that emergency scenario. And so you would like to have those documents where you've named someone very intentionally as your primary person and your backup in case you can't make those decisions. If you haven't done that and something comes up, the court has to get involved at that point.
Right.
And that's where you either get to a conservator, which is like a power of attorney, and that's where you either get to a guardian, who is like a healthcare proxy. So a conservatorship and guardianship are very similar to these documents that you could have proactively done and named someone.
Yeah.
There's some big flaws to that I'm happy to talk about, where if you have, not only do you get to name your own person if you sign your documents, you have a plan, you can communicate your wishes to them.
Right.
But also the documents that you would sign on your own just have more authority in general. So for example, a healthcare proxy covers everything from routine care if you can't make decisions on your own and you need help, all the way to end-of-life decision-making. If you get the court involved, they won't automatically grant end-of-life decision-making. So if there comes a point in time where you might need hospice care and you might need just end-of-life decision-making, you have to go back to the court and you have to get that authority added on. And for the power of attorney, an example that comes up a lot with our clients is actually dealing with real estate. With a power of attorney, you can include a tremendous amount of power, including the ability to transfer real estate between spouses or sell real estate. Whereas if you have a conservatorship from the court will say, okay, why do you need to sell the house? What are you selling it for? You have to get a license to sell.
Yeah.
So that proactive planning is not only better in terms of communicating your wishes, getting the person lined up who you want to be there, but it also gives you all of that authority and ultimately saves time and money. So the person acting you can just move forward as if they were you on your behalf.
You don't have to go to court every time you want to
instead of
do
going to
something.
the court.
Right.
And I think it brings up, before you jump into the next question, Erica, is you're saving time and money.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of times I think people are concerned about the cost of looking into these types of documents and getting them in place and having the time, but ultimately it's really saving them and helping to pursue that person's legacy and wishes.
Yes, and we find that a lot because a lot of people have documents and either they're not executed correctly, they're missing some key words, there's just some small piece that's off. And if you have that one small piece that's off, but that's the part that you need, then you get the court involved.
And that's with people who have already taken time to do this with maybe a different elder law attorney, or you think, does laws change? Like what happens where these incidences happen?
It's a little bit of everything that you said. It's not necessarily an elder law attorney or an estate planning attorney who would do it. but it's definitely not an area where people should dabble because the laws do change and it's very hard to keep up with them, especially if you're looking towards like asset protection for mass health or probate laws and the estate tax have changed. Quite honestly, the forms change over time. So a lot of people just have something that's slightly outdated. So if you have an attorney who's just up on that and always part of these organizations, reading, newsletters, magazines, staying up on top of it, you don't have to worry about that so much.
And they just automatically they work with you to update your documents.
Yes. And we have a client care program. We offer it free to all of our clients the first year. And it's a way we hope to stay engaged with them. And I always tell my clients, like, this is not just a transaction for us. Like, in some ways it is. We have a fee agreement, you're paying for a service, but we're getting to know them on a very deep level and all about their family, all about their wishes. And I don't want them to sign the documents and leave and be like, well, that's done. I'll never see her again.
Right.
And so we want our clients to stay engaged. And some people will renew after the first year, and we have annual meetings with them, and it's wonderful. And some will say, you know what, I'm all set. But at least they've had that year to call us, to email us, to do the events with us. Because we really are, our motto or our logo is basically 2 hands together. Like, we'll hold your hand through this. And I think that truly, I've never worked in a place where every person really was just happy to come to work, happy to do the work that we do. And there are definitely tough days.
Yeah, of course.
But in the end, we're all just so happy. I always tell people I love what I do. And that's something nice about Generations Law Group is that we don't just say it, we actually get to practice that.
That's amazing. So talk us through, like, if you're a person listening to this, and maybe you have your healthcare proxy done or whatever, but like, at what point would you recommend someone seek legal support with the documents? What could they do on their own? Like, at what point? Just kind of walk us through a timeline of when you'd recommend somebody really engage. Because sometimes people are like, "Well, I don't have that much money," or but it's like it's more than that, right?
Yeah, it's definitely not about money. You could have very little, but if you have anything, it's enough to cause, fighting or controversy. Whereas if you just have a nice little plan set up, at least it gives clarity for the people who take over. In general, for any person who has estate planning documents, I think they personally should look at them every single year. And I always just tell my clients, whether you do your own taxes or you hire someone to do them, that's just a nice reminder each year just to scroll through your documents and think, do my documents say what I want them to say? Do they name the right people? Has anyone passed away? Has anything changed? Like, if someone is disabled and that's not anticipated in those documents, we want to update it to protect their inheritance, for example.
Sure.
I do think it's important to stay engaged with an estate planning attorney. And it varies to 3 to 5 to 7 years, sort of just, I think everyone says something different.
Do you think everyone should have one?
Oh, everyone should
everyone
absolutely
should
have a
one.
plan.
Yeah.
And I think they should definitely have a will, power of attorney, healthcare proxy at the very least, those 3.
Okay.
But in terms of updating them, once you have something set, it's just to be mindful of those life changes.
Yeah.
Where they might impact your documents.
And tax time is a great time to do that because it's always coming around. We know every April that's coming. So that is a good time to refresh that.
everything.
Yeah. Check your passports, like all that stuff. That's great. I love that advice.
You can also check your beneficiaries on your accounts because if you're already logging into all of your financial accounts to download the documents, check that you have a primary and a secondary beneficiary on accounts.
Yeah, and it's the same.
Because you're already logging in. So it's like while you're there.
And just to give people a kind of like a real life situation, are you able to share, obviously protecting confidence and HIPAA, whatnot, but just like a real life example of when that you've worked with where these documents have really made a difference, or maybe you worked with a family that didn't have these documents in place, and what was it like? Can you share an example of some type?
I don't have as many success stories to tell because those are the ones that you don't hear about so much because the documents worked and everything had a plan and everything was taken care of. But I will say there was one, and it's pretty sad, and there wasn't a healthcare proxy. And so there was no ability to move someone from place to place. And a healthcare proxy would authorize you to move someone, for example, from a hospital to hospice or to rehab or somewhere else. And that did not exist. So we petitioned the court, and you can do what's called a verified motion. And that says, this is an emergency. We need you to act quickly because this person needs care right now. And all we were asking is to transfer someone from the hospital, actually to hospice in this case. And talking to his daughter every day, it's like, has the court responded? Has the court responded? How's he doing? He's not doing well. And for the court, I know that they're doing the best that they can, but it was still a full week because you still have to give quick notice. You still have to wait for a judge to be available. And the night before, I kept checking my phone, my email. That morning, I kept checking. We got to court together. She was checking her phone the whole time. And even in front of the judge, we were kind of like, he may have passed in the hospital at this point. We don't know. Ultimately, we got the approval to move him from the hospital to hospice care. And she was so thankful because it was the last 3 days of his life, but he got that care.
Right.
And it was heartbreaking because we did everything that we could as fast as we could. But it didn't matter because
Right.
you have to go through those legal steps.
And it's business, like, it's also business days. Like, you Saturday and Sunday, nothing's happening. You lose those days, you know. It's we've worked in the past with someone with, you know, a conservatorship because for various reasons. It was kind of a long story, but it was challenging because every change that they wanted to make, you were constantly waiting for decisions to be made, and it just is like a hard way to live. Everything's delayed, you know, even if it's the right thing, it still has to be the legal thing, and it gets tied up. So I can understand that being sort of a challenge, and it's usually a challenge at an already challenging time. Like you're talking about these difficult situations anyway. You know, we deal a lot with folks with dementia or a crisis, or, you know, and it's like every day you lose is another day that person could have been more comfortable, you know?
Absolutely. And I also think of it as a sense, and I tell people this all the time, when they take time to make these plans and have them in place, it's truly a gift to the family, to your family, because they're not left trying to go through this process to help their loved one get the care and support that they need. And they're not second guessing, is this what my loved one would have wanted? And I think, Erica, you lend into another great part of the discussion is when dementia does come into play. You know, sometimes these diagnoses might come later as opposed to earlier. And I think you shared at our panel a little bit about capacity and having people be a part of this planning process as early as possible.
Yes, I think it's important if you don't have documents in advance, not to wait if there's a diagnosis. And just because someone has dementia, it's a very common question of, well, can they still sign documents? And the most common legal answer to everything any lawyer will say is, it depends. And capacity changes over time, and there can also be good days and bad days. So while there might be a progressive decline, it doesn't necessarily mean that there's still not going to be moments of capacity or that you automatically can't sign documents.
Right.
Typically what we do if someone comes to us, we can hear a lot just from the person who calls us on their loved one's behalf. And sometimes the words they say, we just say, I just don't think this is going to work. Let's explore some options. But oftentimes we can get a letter of competency from a doctor. And it's a very simple statement that says, I'm the doctor, this is my patient, this is their condition, and whether or not they can make informed decisions as to their health and their finances. And that's something, a nice protection for us, because you also don't know based on what they decide who might challenge it one day.
Right.
And they might say, oh, you let my mom sign this, but she didn't have any capacity. She couldn't do it. And we can say, well, the doctor said that she did. And when I met with her, she seemed fine. She absolutely understood what she was doing. But it's a nice safeguard because you don't know what's going to happen in the future.
Or the family dynamics you're working with.
Yeah, you never know.
Yeah.
I think the other piece, like just such an important piece that we've kind of been discussing, is like these, you touched on it, Sarah, like these conversations are a gift that you give to the folks that you leave behind. And having loved ones, myself, that passed away, luckily, like, you know, 80, 90 years old, which is really, really nice that they lived a long, you know, happy life. But in both cases, they were really clear about what they wanted. And that was really, really helpful to all of us they left behind, right down to like where they wanted us to have lunch after, after services or whatever. And I think it was my grandmother who like put aside money for that, like you're going to go to lunch at this restaurant and da da da. And it was just such a gift. I think I've mentioned it before. It really stuck with me because like, you can get into the minutia, like there's, forms online, your wishes, and all these things that give thought of like, how do I want to live the rest of my life? How I want people to honor the decisions I would have made if I'm not able to make those decisions, and what I want to happen when I die. And yes, this might change, maybe in 10 years I'll have a different opinion of what I want. Right now I'd say like, yeah, I want to live. But in 20 years I might say, hey, if I'm going, let me go. So just keeping up with it. But I just think like all of this enables those discussions and having those discussions for our families. So in our friends or whoever our family is to us, just makes us live better.
Yeah, we're always telling our clients that communicate, communicate, communicate. And we have a guide on our website that people can fill out, a little workbook. But I say you don't have to do a workbook, but you need to share your wishes. And it's not just the large scale wishes, it's also the small things. Like if someone's helping you, who's your doctor? Who are these specialists? Who does your lawn maintenance? Who does your snow removal? How do I get into your bank accounts, even as your power of attorney? Like, I still need to know which banks you have.
Right.
All the way down to, if I'm dying, this is where I'd say, okay, let me die peacefully, I'm good. Or this is where I might think, no, try harder, get a second opinion. And so it's really important to go through all of those things, because we take for granted that people know these things about us, or that they would just guess correctly.
Right.
But it's an immense amount of pressure on someone to make those decisions, because they're not only making them at a time where there's either a lot of stress and or grief, but they're so worried about making the wrong decisions.
Right. And we've laughed before about this, because we've talked about this, the two of us, and it's like kind of funny because sometimes you have to pick someone that would be the person that would do what you want. So sometimes it's not like the most compassionate person in your family, or even, a friend that you're closest with. Sometimes it's like, I know this person will like complete the tasks that I'm asking them to complete, regardless of whether or not, they agree with it.
Absolutely.
And that's key. You got to have like, you need someone that's going to be like, you want the plug pulled? I'm pulling the plug, or whatever it is, not to, be silly about it. But, that's so important that it will get executed correctly.
Yes.
Absolutely. And I do also think too, just again, having that gift of not second guessing. And like you were saying, when you're in that amount of pressure, people want to feel like they are honoring their loved one's wishes. And I think it does bring that sense of peace of, this is what my loved one truly wanted. And I think this is really, really great conversation to have. But anyway, no, this was really great conversation, and I appreciate the great points that you made. And I guess before we start getting ready to wrap things up, can you just share a little bit about how did you fall into this, get passionate about this type of work? What drives you to support the families and people that you do?
I really love helping people. And I was told recently that it was very cheesy, my description of how I feel about work.
We like
That's
cheesy.
Okay. I fully admit it. But I truly like that sense, like that wonderful feeling you get from helping someone. And a lot of people I meet with, they are like, I'm so glad. Now I don't have to worry about that. I'm all set. And I say, yes, you're all set. This is wonderful. And then there's those times where we're helping people and they say, I don't know what to do. I don't even know where to start. I don't even know my name. What do I do? Oh. And when you help them through that, there's just this wonderful feeling. And to be able to do that and have the education and the experience to do it, it means so much. And that's why earlier I said I truly love my job. And it's something that I've wanted to do since law school. And I think because in law school we do trust in estates. And trust in estates work is very, very much like a puzzle. And every single puzzle is different. And I love it that even though we all sort of do the same work every single day, you don't actually know when you meet a client anything about them or their family or their priorities. and you can't assume anything.
Yep.
And people will say, oh, there's so much boilerplate. You say, well, you know, the really like the fundamental parts of your document are not boilerplate.
Right.
And there are some words we want to see in there because we just hope if it comes up that those words are in there. But there's so much of it that we put our hands in and our thoughts in, and you don't even notice it until maybe there's an emergency.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And it's one of those things that just makes you really happy when you leave because you know, no matter what, you've done something positive for that person or for their family.
That really resonates because we help, I mean, literally thousands of families. But yeah, each one is completely unique. That's a nice way to put it.
Everyone is. And you know, you did mention earlier about on your website that you have some really fantastic tools that folks could check out. And you guys are really big on education, which I love. You offer free education and great tools on your website. Where can guests go to find that information? Can you just share your website?
Sure, it's www.generationslawgroup.com.
Awesome.
And on the website, there's resources, there's videos, a YouTube channel, books that can be downloaded, blog posts, all kinds of
Fantastic.
information.
This
Yeah.
will be uploaded soon, I'm sure.
Yeah,
So that's
no,
great.
I definitely recommend going on there and checking it out. I think education is key, and you can learn more about some of the fabulous topics and resources that they offer there. And really can't thank you enough for coming in and just shedding a little bit of light on the importance of this topic. And I hope that if you're listening, that you might consider getting your plan in place. And if so, maybe you'll call Tiffany over at Generations Law and her team there.
Thank
you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here. And until the next time, we'll see you soon.
See you soon. That's a wrap.